Summer League Podcast. What's going on, sports fans? I'm Dom Taylor along with my co-hosts Cooper Husky and Dylan Morgan. This is the Student Section Summer League Podcast. Thank you so much for joining in today and listening. We have several things that we're going to be getting to today. I'll break it down for you. We have the CFB preview. We're going to be talking about the way too early top 25s and just how those kind of broke down with college football. We're going to be breaking some of those down, giving you some of our favorite games coming up this season and just what's going to happen with those. And then we're going to get into a little bit of what's going on with the NFL. The NFL has had, first off, they've had a few teams that have had COVID-19 positive players just in the last couple of days. And you can look at Dylan's background and see one of those players that just tested positive. That's Zeke Elliott. And we'll get into a little bit about that. We'll get into, of course, the NFL's guidelines and how that's going to be working out. And then we're going to go into the MLB yet again because more news coming out of the MLB in terms of their agreement. It's not going well. However, my mind has been changed a little bit on a few things that I've realized and have kind of researched. Again, further in the show, we will get to that. And then we're going to talk about sports returning to New Zealand. They're kind of the first country that has really had full stadiums and full crowds for a sporting event. So we're going to check into that. And then finally, we're going to cap off the show with a little NHL. So thank you so much for listening in. Stay tuned for the whole show. This is the Student Section Summer League Podcast. All right, guys, first up, the CFB preview, right? Well, let's break down this top 10. So ESPN released their preseason top 10. They've got Clemson at number 1. They've got Ohio State number 2, number 3 Oklahoma, 4 Alabama, 5 Penn State, 6 Wisconsin, 7 Texas, 8 Texas A&M, 9 Notre Dame, and 10 Georgia. So I have a lot of thoughts about this. I'm personally not a huge fan about how that stacked up. I really don't know what the thought process was for this. But I will defer to you guys. Please vent me your frustrations first off, and then we'll get to mine.
So as some of our older listeners know that have been following the student section on 90.7 The Capstone, former Texas fan, changed over to Alabama, obviously, because that is my alma mater now. Yes. So, but I will say I do not agree with Wisconsin at 6 by any means. Texas at 7, Texas A&M at 8, and honestly, I think Georgia should be further up this list, and Notre Dame should be way, way down on this list as well. But, Coop, what are you thinking right now, man?
Okay, personally, shout out to our older listeners from 9.7 to Capstone as well. You're about to get my bias. Growing up here in Jacksonville, longtime Gator fan, still closet Gator fan when they're not playing Alabama.
Not exactly closet if you tell everybody that you're closet Gator fan, right?
Right out there, open.
Just say it. We all know what the truth is. You are somewhat still of a Florida fan.
Yep.
You're an Alabama and Florida fan at the same time.
Yes,
sir. And when they don't play each other, it's great. When they play each other, gotta go Roll Tide.
Next year.
Gotta do it.
Here in Gainesville, it's happening.
Actually, this year in Atlanta, I think Georgia, this is not their year. This is Florida's year to win the East. I like them ahead of Georgia. Heck, even ahead of Notre Dame, Texas A&M, Texas. I got the Athlon college football preview right here. And I like their top 10 way better. It's got Clemson 1, Bama 2, Ohio State 3, Oklahoma 4. So same top 4. 5 Penn State, so the same top 5, but 6 Florida. And I think that is a way better ranking for them. Kyle Trask is the real deal. Like, he may be second or third best quarterback in the SEC. Maybe even first. Not sure yet. Got to see how it goes. I always like our guy, Bryce and Mac Jones, Bryce Young and all them. So, don't know. I think Florida is way underranked here.
Yeah, I got to agree with you, Coop. I definitely was surprised to not see Florida on this list because I think that all the momentum is going their way right now. To me, the biggest atrocities, though, definitely Wisconsin. Don't know why Wisconsin is at 6. That doesn't make any sense. I don't know why Texas follows them at 7, given the year that they just had. I understand that Sam Ehlinger is a senior this year, but that seems to be the only reason why they would have Texas up there. And then by the same token, I mean, putting Texas A&M at 8 is the same reason they had Texas at 7, because Kellen Mond is a senior, and they just think because there's a great senior quarterback at the helm that all of a sudden they're going to be a top 10 team come time for the season. That doesn't make any sense. It almost is the same principle with Notre Dame as well, because Eli Book is a senior, and they're just going to say Eli Book should be, tearing it up this season. There's going to be all these great quarterback battles and all of this. 7, 8, and 9, I do not agree with at all. Actually, 6 through 9, I think you got to shuffle those a little bit. You got to move Georgia all the way up there. I am of the belief that it's a little disrespectful to not even put LSU in the top 10. I understand that they lost a ton of talent, but even still, this is a team that's coming off of a national championship. They did return some of their stars. They've got another great recruiting class coming here, stacked up. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, they have a few different great recruiting classes that they have stacked up. Coach O is obviously, he's a big-time coach now. He knows what he's doing. He's got a national championship under his belt. It's a slap in the face, quite honestly, to put them not even in the top 10, but behind the likes of A&M and Texas, a team that they absolutely obliterated. And they're going to play again this year, so that question will be solved. But
in Death Valley this year.
Yes.
In Death Valley.
Exactly.
And I don't understand why they're saying A&M is the second best SEC team. Because according to ESPN, it goes Alabama, then Texas A&M. I'm sorry, that is just not true. LSU, Georgia, and Florida, in my book, are all ahead of Texas A&M. Texas A&M has got to be like the 5th best SEC team this year.
I think everyone's all the talking heads are thinking that just because the loss of Joe Burrow and Joe Brady in that absolutely amazing record-setting offense they had last year, I think that for some reason they think it's all just going to go downhill from here. But no, I'm with you, Dom. I think LSU, especially coming off of a national championship, I don't think – and with a good recruiting class. It's not like they went from national championship to maybe having an outside of the top 15 recruiting class. They're a top 5 recruiting class right here. And as you said, Coach O, he's been there, done that now. I think he's solidified himself as one of the upper-level coaches in the SEC, maybe the upper-level coaches in the country as well right now. And, if I'm LSU, I'm frankly going to be a little pissed off. And if I'm Texas, that week two matchup, I believe, that's going to be a tough one for them. You're going into Death Valley to a pissed-off LSU team who's going to demolish whoever they play week 1, obviously, by 60-something points. And that's going to be an interesting year for them for sure.
Yeah, you could say that ESPN is about to keep Texas from being back for, I don't know, the 6th year in a row? Yeah. No, that LSU team is going to demolish them come time for Death Valley to rear up and take on the Longhorns. Yeah, there is no way that Texas is a better team right now. And for them to be ranked above and to keep LSU out of the top 10, that is a tragedy. I don't even get that. I think ESPN just posted this maybe just to get people talking,
Probably.
Well, Texas only one 5-star. I'm sorry, Coop. One 5-star recruit for Texas this coming season too. So there's not a whole lot of talent coming into this team. Plus, their offense is a little crippled. They lost, I'd say, 3 of their top receivers. And Sam Ehlinger, just because he's coming back for his 7th year or whatever you want to say, but I don't think that's going to be enough to put them at the next level for them to maybe compete this year. I don't think so.
I'll tell you, Athlon has LSU 8, and I think that is a way fair ranking. Texas and Texas A&M, not even in their top 10. And they have Oregon up there too, which I don't believe Oregon was in ESPN's top 10.
Oh, yeah, that's something we didn't even mention. Oregon completely snubbed in this top 10.
Absolutely. I didn't even realize that. Yeah.
Yeah.
Without a doubt.
That's tough.
That's ridiculous.
Yeah.
That is –
Although I do have a hot take about Oregon, and their schedule starts off week 1, week 2. Week 1 against North Dakota State, week 2 against Ohio State. I say they lose both of those. That's my hot take. They'll win out from the rest of the year, go 10-2, but I see them losing to North Dakota State that week 1 in Eugene.
I see a one-loss Oregon. That Ohio State game, it's going to be a good game. Don't get me wrong. I think it's going to be a fantastic game. But I think Ohio State returning almost all of their team except for, J.K. Dobbins and the cornerback that they Jeff Okuda that they had. But, I think a one-loss Oregon dominates the Pac-12 by far.
I got to agree with Dylan there. Yeah, I don't see them losing more than one game. And I think if they do, it's going to be Ohio State. But you know what? You could look like a mastermind, Coop. I'm telling you.
You could.
I'm just telling you right now.
If it works out for you.
Yeah, in the FCS, North Dakota State has won the national championship 8 out of the last 9 years. 8 out of the last 9. There's something there. They're doing something right there. And I feel like they're the ones that can pull off the upset of 2020.
You know what they're doing right?
Playing? They're playing JMU.
You know what they're doing right? They're playing FCS opponents primarily. That's what they're doing.
Primarily. Yeah, but they're also playing 13th ranked Iowa. They're also playing second ranked JMU.
Not when they were ranked 13th, however. When they were unranked and it was the beginning of the season. That was like
that was when Iowa was ranked 13th.
It must have been by the end of the season.
20-something.
And how much was it by?
23-21.
Off the last second field goal, right?
It was still a win. And that's how this will be. It's not going to be
true. Find a way to win. I get that.
Find a way to win.
I don't think that's about to happen again. Especially again, Oregon and Iowa are two very different programs. And if anybody has the star power to completely overmatch an FCS opponent, even if they've won 8 national championships in the last 9 years, it's Oregon. I can tell you that. Speaking of some hot takes and some predictions here as to what's going to happen with the college football playoff landscape, let's talk about the college football playoff, all right? Let's give our way too early CFP predictions because since we were just talking about Oregon is in my top 4. I think Oregon is going to make the CFP playoff as a one-loss team. I think they're going to take that 4th spot. Clemson, Ohio State, Alabama, and Oregon. That's my top 4. I think Ohio State will go into Autzen. They'll beat Oregon. It'll be a close game, but Oregon's going to sweep the Pac-12. They'll win the Pac-12 championship probably. I don't even know who's going to be good enough in the South to be able to face Oregon, but whoever it is, they're going to lose to Oregon in the Pac-12 championship, and then it's going to be those 4, Clemson, Ohio State, Alabama, Oregon. I don't have Oklahoma in here because I think Oklahoma, like they have done in the last couple of years, is going to fall to an unranked opponent. At some point in the season, they're going to have a bad loss on their resume. I think they'll beat Texas again this year. However, I think that they're probably going to lose to somebody like Texas Tech, or maybe they're going to lose to Oklahoma State again this year or something like that. I think that that's a huge possibility. I think that they're kind of a younger team now. I think their quarterback magic has worn off. I know Spencer Rattler. Everybody's excited about Spencer Rattler, but
you don't think he has it, man?
I'm sure he has it. He's a 5-star quarterback, but he's going to have his growing pains, and it's going to show at some point during this year. So, that's just me. I mean, I don't know what weapons they have coming back this year besides CeeDee Lamb, who's gone. I mean, who do they really have that he can kind of use as a weapon? I think they're going to have growing pains. I have Oklahoma out of my top 4, but let me hear your guys' top 4.
I'm going to have to agree with you, Dom. I don't know if yours was in order as you just said it, but I think Ohio State takes over Clemson for that number 1 spot at the end of the year. I just think so that's the only really thing I'm going to say about that, because I think Ohio State, with that Oregon win, because of how good Oregon does the rest of the year, Clemson's not going to have a kind of big win like that, especially on the road at Autzen, across the country. That's going to be a really good win for them, I think. And then they're just going to blow out the rest of the Big Ten. Let's be completely honest. No one is going to challenge them whatsoever. So I think Ohio State is a step back this year with the players they're losing, and then with who was supposed to be their number 1 receiver having season-ending neck surgery before the season even begins. And I think they're going to take a huge step back, but I definitely do agree. Ohio State 1, Clemson 2, Alabama 3, Oregon 4. And that'll make for a very interesting college football playoff. Alabama-Clemson, first round. Once again, we'll go back to it. Last time that happened, though, we all know what happened. So
We do.
No.
All right, so I'm going to agree on 3 of the 4 with 2 of you. Clemson, Alabama, Ohio State. I think they all go undefeated. I think you see 3 undefeated teams enter the college football playoff this year. There's nobody in the ACC who can challenge Clemson. I think Penn State gives Ohio State a scare. That's it. There's no one really there. Challenge them. And us, Bama, no, I don't think anybody really gives us a scare. Maybe LSU, but we've shut them out the last 2 times in Death Valley.
I think LSU and Auburn will be some tough games.
Yeah, there'll be some tough games, but LSU hasn't scored on us in Death Valley since 2014. I'm giving us the SEC and undefeated record. But I'm calling for Oregon to have 2 losses, and this is not the year you see a 2-loss team enter the playoff. I'll give you Oklahoma probably drops a game to a random Big 12 team. It was Kansas State last year. Could be Oklahoma State this year. Could be Baylor, Texas Tech, one of those teams. But I think you take a 1-loss Big 12 champion Oklahoma over a 2-loss Pac-12 Oregon. So that's my 4. Clemson, Alabama, Ohio State, Oklahoma.
All right.
I like it.
Yeah.
Now, we're going to talk a little bit about some of the games that are going to be the building blocks to some of our predictions, right? There are some really, really good non-conference games as well as conference games coming up this season. Ones that, quite honestly, are, I think, some of the best that we've had in the last couple of years. First off, I'll give you a conference game, guys. Bama LSU. That one is on a lot of people's lists is one of the most popular of the entire year. They're going to want to see how Bama's going to rebound. It's going to be tough, very hostile environment in Death Valley, especially after that crowd's coming off a year where they punked us and Bryant Denny. So let's talk about that for a second. Bama LSU, who do you got this year?
Alabama.
I think Alabama overtakes it this year. We've got a good mixture of young guys and some vets. And I think at that point in the season, LSU will be kind of depleted, a little tired. So I definitely think Bama takes that one for sure.
Definitely, especially with Devontae and Jalen coming back. You got Dylan Moses on the defense. I think we win that. I think we'll finally give up a touchdown in Death Valley this year, but I think we win this.
I'd have to agree with that. I think they're going to break the shutout, but I think that our streak of beating them in Death Valley is going to continue as well. I think full bias. I'm with Bama for this one. I think Dylan Moses is going to take this one personally too. As somebody who literally grew up in LSU's backyard, who it's his senior year. Given his injury history the last couple of years, I'm sure he's going to be just ready for this game. He's going to want to prove something. So, I got Bama with that. Clean sweep, Bama against LSU. Now, let's go to another conference game. Bama's involved with this one as well. Georgia-Bama. It's the 3rd week of the season. It's going to be probably what shapes up either of our seasons. If either one of us loses this game, it's going to be tough, one, to get into Atlanta. But if you don't get into Atlanta, it's going to be tough to get into the college football playoff. So who we got? Georgia-Bama.
I got to go Bama. I don't think the transfer of JT Daniels will do a whole lot for Georgia. They'll still be able to compete at a high level for sure. But first off, they lost almost that entire offensive line, which was what helped so much with DeAndre Swift and Jake Fromm and their success. So I think – and it's in Tuscaloosa – We're gonna be upset after last year's ending for. We won the bowl game, but we didn't get in the playoff last year. So I think we got some bones to pick, and I think Bama takes it at home.
Yeah, the vibe on campus is going to be great around this one. I'm taking Alabama. By the middle of the 4th quarter, we'll be up by 2 scores, and it'll just kind of be like going through the motions by the end of that game.
Yep. No, I got to agree with that. I'm taking Alabama as well. I think that, it's going to be a matter of who during this COVID-19 training took it the most serious. I think I like the edge that our guys have right now with our new strength and conditioning coaches. I think it's going to be personal because of Coach Cochran being, back on Georgia's sidelines.
Yep.
So I got Georgia. I have Bama. I have Alabama. That wasn't like a cognitive slip. I actually have Alabama. Yeah. All right, the third game on our list here, Ohio State and Oregon. We got to move through these a little bit quicker. We got a ton of content still to get to. How about we just say like just a real quick couple sentences? Ohio State, Oregon. What do we got?
Ohio State. Done. Ohio State.
Ohio State by 17.
Ooh.
Oregon by 10.
Oh. Is that another Freudian slip?
I'm joking.
Okay.
I'm joking. No,
I was
no,
like, oh my.
No. I have Ohio State coming into Autzen and beating him. Yeah, it wouldn't match up with my CFP takes if I did. Come on, guys.
It's true. It's true.
That.
That's why I was so confused.
Yes.
No. I have Ohio State going in there, but I still think Oregon's going to sweep the rest of the season. No, this is Justin Fields' year. I mean, he's going to be drafted probably first or second overall next year. He's going to come in to Autzen. It's going to solidify his legacy. Yeah, no, I definitely have Ohio State probably by 2 touchdowns.
Okay.
All right, Notre Dame, Clemson.
Clemson. Simple.
Clemson.
It's close game though.
Close game, really?
No, Clemson wins this clear outright.
Yeah, I got Clemson by more than 2 touchdowns, I would say.
All right, yeah, and another game I was really excited about this year was going to be a Week 2 matchup. Tennessee is traveling to Oklahoma. Tennessee has the third-ranked recruiting class in this upcoming year, and it's not just young guys. They're getting a lot of good eligible transfers as well. So I think what Jeremy Pruitt is doing over there is he's doing a lot of work right now. So I think that'll be a lot better game than people imagined it to be as well in that Week 2 matchup.
Yeah, without a doubt. Very excited for that game coming up. Jeremy Pruitt is he's on the up and up compared to where he was last season. Now we're going to jump into our second segment. So we're going to be talking about the NFL, COVID-19, and the pretty unfortunate occurrences that just happened with the Houston Texans and the Cowboys. That was literally just earlier today. Yep. Several Texans and Cowboys players have tested positive for COVID-19. Among them, Ezekiel Elliott, the star running back for the Cowboys. Now, you're going to be eating – he's going to be on quarantine for the next 14 days, unfortunately.
That's a lot of chicken soup.
Yeah, exactly.
He can quarantine in Mexico again, and we'll be just fine.
Yeah, there we go. Go quarantine in Cabo with your shirt off, like you walk around every day wearing. The good news is, of course, that they don't believe to have contracted it from any facilities, and they weren't in any facilities around the time that they may have had it. So that's good. It hopefully won't spread to any of the players. They're going to be quarantined. They have the situation under control. Mm-hmm. Now it's just a matter of how does this spook the NFL for potential situations where players get COVID. They just released some of their guidelines going into the season. They're going to keep social distancing, obviously. They're going to be using distance markers in most of the facilities. They're going to have different locker room configurations. It's going to be, it's going to be pretty uptight. 15 people per personnel meeting. That also goes for workouts, and they're going to be doing staggered schedules when it comes to workouts and personnel meetings. So they're going to keep people separated. They're going to keep the crowd small. It's going to be difficult, but at the same time, it's not that difficult. John Harbaugh, of course, coach for the Ravens, said
he thinks differently.
Thinks differently. The NFL requirements are impossible, he said. Those were his words. That's not impossible, my friend. In fact, every single person in the entire country has been doing that times 10 for the last 3 months.
Very attainable, actually.
Yeah.
That's weak, Harbaugh.
Yes.
That is weak.
I
you are like your brother.
Yeah.
You are just like your brother now, complaining about every little thing. Get over yourself. Come on.
Yeah, it's ridiculous. It's ridiculous. I understand it's going to be tough. It's going to be tough trying to coach a football team doing this, but as long as everybody else is doing it, right, that's when it's going to be just fine. Everybody's on the same exact level. You're going to figure out your ways. People are going to do it. You've been having video meetings already. It's not that big of a deal. Now, I do understand, and this is one of the points that he brought up, the possibility that other teams don't follow these guidelines. It could create a competitive advantage. It puts players' health at risk, but non-compliance with health guidelines could be kind of influenced by teams wanting to get ahead. If those players want to get ahead and the coaches are on the same page, it could create some problems. What do you guys think? Just real quick about that. Does it create a competitive disadvantage or advantage?
I feel like that's up to the NFL. It should be up to the NFL to make sure everyone's complying with the rules, to keep a close eye on everybody, and that's not something for the coaches to worry about. That's up to Roger Goodell and the higher ups to make sure everyone's following the rules. So I think he just needs to take a step back and worry about his own team, in all honesty.
Well, to me, it presents teams with two choices. Kind of like in the classic board game, the game of life, you have easy way and risky road. And easy way's got, it's paved with paydays and, taking it easy and you get paid. Risky road, you have pay raises, but you also can lose your job. So I'm looking at it like this. You can either comply with the quarantine rules, stick to the rules, and yeah, you're going to see a little decline in your athletic ability of your players. But if you go the risky road and, cheat these, you have the risk of getting COVID-19 and having your players out for 2 weeks. So Harbaugh just needs to worry about what the Ravens are doing if he wants to go risky road or easy way, not what everybody else is.
But another thing is if you don't comply with these rules, the NFL is going to come down with suspensions, pay cuts. There's going to be hell to pay if you do not comply with these rules. So I feel like
that's another risk.
Yeah, exactly.
That's another risk on the risky road.
Yeah. So I think John Harbaugh just needs to worry about playing by the rules, and everyone else will be dealt with if they break the rules. So.
Yep, I agree. Speaking of playing by the rules, you want to talk about people who have taken matters into their own hands, who have done the right thing, who have done it the right way, and now they're back playing sports. We're going to go all the way to the other side of the country, over to New Zealand.
Other side of the world.
Absolutely. Where Lord of the Rings was filmed, one of the best movies ever created, series of movies, I should say. They have started up play for rugby. I mean, they have
with fans. So.
Exactly, with fans. They've got 20,000 rugby fans in attendance for the Otago Highlanders and the Waikato Chiefs. I mean, that's great. They're back.
That's great.
Finally.
They haven't had a case. They haven't had a COVID case in 3 weeks or 2 weeks, something like that. And so they said, hey, it's fine to start congregating in crowds again. So this will be like our first real test in the world to see if COVID is on its way out and we can start getting back to sports venues again.
Yeah.
So I love this.
Yeah, they went from 1,300 cases, active cases, to 0 in the matter of a couple weeks, just by following protocols, doing what they're supposed to do. So good for New Zealand. Glad to see some sort of hope for the rest of the world. And hopefully this is a sign of what's to come in the future, as long as we keep following these rules and such. As you can see, we are following right now.
Yes. Yes, and it's coming with its difficulties. But it is what it is. It is the time we live in. However, it is hope. I totally agree with you. That is hope right there. Especially with a contact sport like rugby, if they can start playing it safe and have all those fans there and no COVID cases come from that. I mean, oh man, that's perfect. That is a huge sign that things are going in the right direction for sports. And I mean, honestly, the next thing we're going to talk about, the MLB.
It's the wrong direction.
Yeah, the wrong direction. They should take some notes. This is how you work in synergy, fellas, because the MLB has no idea how to work in synergy.
Nope.
Let's talk about what just happened just in the last couple of days. Another proposal has been sent to the MLB. Another proposal rejected back and forth. Excuse me, the MLBPA rejected another proposal. But it's been back and forth rejections. This proposal included 72 games in a season, a July 14th start date, and then 70% prorated salaries, 80% if they complete a postseason. Now, the offer was rejected and will not be countered. I originally was very frustrated with how the MLBPA was handling this situation. However, I did a little more research in the last few days, and some things have come to light. The MLB has not exactly handled this situation good, as well as I thought. And I'm man enough to admit it. I did not know this. Here's what it said in the original March agreement. Okay, it states that players do not have to agree to further pay cuts from what they've already been cut. I didn't know that. It says the Players Association is free to take the position that players are unwilling to accept further reductions. Specifically, it says that in their March agreement. Now, even as recent as May 22nd, okay, Pat Houlihan, the MLB legal counsel, wrote this in a statement. He said, "We agree, the MLB, with the Players Association that players are not required to accept less than their full prorated salary." So you have acknowledgement on both sides that they didn't have to accept pay cuts farther from or more pay cuts from what they've already experienced. And yet the MLB is still trying to push that. Now, I now kind of get it. I didn't see it before. I also think that the players need to understand, like, hey, these guys are kind of making money. Like, there's some financial trouble in the MLB. However, I would feel punked. I would feel punked if I had already agreed to pay cuts. I had agreed also that I wouldn't have to negotiate for more, but now they're pushing more. So I did not understand that at first. I do now. Guys, is there going to be a proposal? Is there going to be a season? What do you think comes of this?
Right now, it's looking like no. It's looking like unless I think what the MLBPA was originally looking for was at least 100 games and then a postseason. I think it was 90 to 100 games, postseason with almost the full pay. And I think unless that is proposed by the MLB, we will have no MLB season this year.
The hopeful optimist in me wants to see a season. He wants to read in the ESPN news tomorrow, hey, MLB's agreed. Everything is sunshine and rainbows from here on out. Baseball starts tomorrow. But I don't think that's going to happen because the MLB is now seeing that they need to give out pay cuts. Like, they're losing more and more games, which is more and more revenue, so they can't pay full salaries. But players were promised they would get full salaries. I'm with Dylan. I just don't see a season happening, as much as it pains me to say that.
Yep.
It's terrible.
It is. But it's another divide between the MLB and the MLBPA, and something's got to give eventually, guys. I don't know what exactly happens here. If owners need to be taken out of their spots, if we go a year without baseball and they lose a ton of money, and we figure out just how dire the situation is, and people kind of let their pride aside and try to figure this out. But it's going to take something like that, I think, and that's very unfortunate. Coop?
My one more comment is that first deal was made when we kind of figured this COVID thing would be up by May. I feel like that full salary thing was given in March when they figured they were just losing April and they could still have a 120-game season starting in May. Now that stuff has been pushed back to July, they just can't financially do that.
Yeah.
Can't financially give full salaries. So that's where I'm still a little angry with the MLBPA. Like, you got to understand the times. You missed the cutoff to receive your full salary. So
it's true.
It's a messy situation on both sides. They probably should not have put that statement in the original agreement because they didn't know how long this quarantine period was going to last.
Yeah.
Yep, it's a league full of egos, and they got to set those egos aside if they want things to work. Now the last thing we're gonna be talking about on our podcast today is the NHL. There's a league that did put their egos aside. In fact, there really weren't any egos at all. There was no trouble. No. They're like, yeah, let's get back on the ice.
It was a quick process for the NHL.
Yeah, they were one of the first to talk about it, and So let's break down what's real quick. What is going to happen with this NHL season or the remainder of the season? You got 24 teams competing for the Stanley Cup. You're going to have 16 teams. They're going to play the best of 5 series. You're going to have a round robin against top 4 teams. They determine seeding, and then there's going to be kind of a normal playoff with qualifying teams. Now, this is how much out of the ordinary is this really, this system right here? How much has this changed from ordinary years, guys? Go ahead and break this down.
It's not too different when you really look at it, in all honesty. It's kind of a better system in some ways. This is kind of a good way to figure out who separate the the men from the boys, in all honesty, because this the best of 5 series, whoever's the better team is going to come out on top, obviously. So there's no debate on that. And then the top 4 teams from each conference, they'll do a quick round robin as well to determine their seeding, which I'm pretty sure their seeding would have been pretty much almost the same as well if the regular season would have went on. And, yeah, I think it's a good system. I'm very proud in the NHL kind of setting the bar on how this should go for coming back into play. And, yeah, as you said, there's no egos, and they're trying to get back on the ice as fast as they can. So, Coop.
I will say this is a very now on the playoffs. Of the 31 teams, only 7 do not have a shot at winning. But, hey, that's great. They picked the top 24. We're going to get it going. You know, you might see a couple more upsets than you usually would because of the rest period, but I'm glad to see that they got something figured out. They're going to get something started, and I just can't wait. I'm super excited. This year's champion will probably be the most tested champion in a while because of all that's going on and all they have to go through. And now there are even more teams in their way, standing in their way from the Stanley Cup. So
It's true.
it'll be very exciting when that starts back up in July. And go Bolts. Final word, go Bolts.
Go Stars. Let's go.
Go Sharks. Not playing, though. Not going to play. However, go Sharks.
Next year.
Yeah, exactly.
Next year.
Exactly. Well, that's all we got planned for today. Thank you so much for listening to the Student Section Summer League podcast. We're going to have another episode coming up this Thursday. We have our Monday and Thursday weekly podcast, so please stay tuned for that. And thank you so much. We will see you on Thursday.